Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity and Love. Incredible guests the world over with amazing insights, incredible journeys themselves, and they've often turned around and they're giving service to others. We've had all sorts of figures from about 25 countries, a White House physician to the US president, who was a Rear Admiral retired, the youngest Delta Force operator ever who studied naturopathy, all sorts of healers from all over, New York Times and Amazon bestsellers, one guest from Oprah's Super Soul Sunday, and so on. Really wild, amazing, big guest footprint for which I'm very thankful. The channel, I'd just like to mention, we have 200 shows already taped, and we have 300 plus booked into the end of 2025. That's over a year out at this point of taping this show. We have a wonderful guest coming to us today from Arizona. I'm super thrilled. She's one of those figures on the spiritual, holistic, yoga, we'll call it inner source, divine source landscape, who has been around a while doing her thing, connected to many of the institutes we all know, whether it's Esalen, Kripalu, Omega Institute, and so on, but also abroad, has done international speaking, has a beautiful book out on Amazon, I think since 2017 through Lotus Press. It's her name of her book is Yoga Nidra. And she is a Yoga Nidra life mastery teacher. I would just like to welcome Kamini Desai to the show. You are wonderful. You've done so much for others. You have a really incredible background, and I hope you'll share that with our audience. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did this all begin? Your dad was a really big figure as well, like yourself. I have a feeling you weren't going to escape it for long. Did you try to run away at one point, at least in your teens, and then went right back to instruction and learning? Have you ever stopped learning?
I don't think we ever stopped learning. I don't know that I ever did, but I certainly had the time in my life when I was trying to escape and told myself I was going to do something different. But the wisdom of life has a certain way of putting you back on your path.
What age did you really start to connect with the universe?
So I actually feel like I had it quite young. Growing up, my father was a yoga master. He was one of the gurus who came over to the U.S. in the '60s, and really was the one who helped begin this what is now a yoga craze in the West, in a way, the popularity of the West. And so I grew up in an ashram with these teachings, chanting and dancing at night, meditation, my father's teachings, and I would fall asleep on my mom's lap every night while my dad would teach the teachings of yoga. So I feel like they got in very young at a cellular level. And then around, I would say 18, 19 years old, I was like, I don't want to do any of this yoga stuff. That's not real. I'm going to go change the world and I'm going to create inner peace with diplomacy. And so I wanted to be a diplomat. So I would say that's the place where I broke. I did not really, but tried to move away from what I already knew. And then found myself in Switzerland, interning at the UN, studying international relations, and ended up getting very disillusioned, depressed, cut off from myself and teachings and other people who were on this path. I mean, yes, the UN has a wonderful ideal, but it's not real politics of peace. And so that's really when I picked up everything that I had learned before, because just relying on the outside was not working for me. I had to go back inside to find my stability.
Did you have a moment that you can share either in childhood it's not that you can't explain it, you know full well what the experience was with the universe, or during the time in Switzerland or before that, that you don't mind, it might have been serving as a reminder, kind of a calling to get back on the path. Can you share one of those moments? I'm sure you've had a bunch.
I have had a bunch. Well, the first one that came to mind, maybe it's not exactly what you're asking, but I remember being very young and I was sleeping on a very high bunk bed, but it was like many feet off the ground, maybe 7 or 8 feet off the ground. And I was sleeping and rolled off the bunk bed. And I remember very clearly watching my body fall on the floor while meaning my astral body, was still on the bunk bed. Um, and I don't remember how old I was, maybe 11, 12 years old, but I was young enough, old enough to go, that was real and remember it. So it gave me a very concrete understanding that I'm more than my body.
Hmm. And can you describe for us? You've got some brilliant practices that you share with others. When they shut their eyes, don't you often take them somewhere or allow themselves to interact with the universe in a visual way that can be very strong and very cultivated for the person, whoever it is that's doing the receiving?
Absolutely. So the idea is, so what Yoga Nidra means, yogic sleep, yoga wholeness via conscious sleep. So we're, I guess the closest would be to what we know in the West would be something like lucid dreaming, but it's less directed in Yoga Nidra. You're really going where the energy of the source within wants to take you rather than you deciding where you want to go. And so, exactly as you said, where I'm actually guiding people into states where they're progressively letting go of that mind that holds that energy down, and letting the energy of the spirit of the soul begin to be the one who takes the front seat and the mind to take the back seat. And in those places, we can explore healing, we can explore physical, mental, emotional release, we can have visuals, symbology, lights, and colors. So, very much actually in line with what you do. It's just guided to help people get there.
And do you have a way you can categorize it a little bit more, describe it a little bit more? It's not necessary, but if you could, are people getting literally very diverse experiences? You've been doing this for a while. Have you pretty much feel like you've heard it all by now, but every once in a while there's something new and you're like, wow, I thought I had heard it all.
I would say it's that. It's that. So, it's so the Nidra itself is a series of body, breath, and awareness techniques that are actually guiding you down into deeper brainwave states where the mind is taking the backseat to this energy. And as that energy begins to move, people see, they have these same kind of experiences that people have on ayahuasca or these mind altering substances. Same thing happens from within our own consciousness as this inner spirit within us starts to become more strong. So I've had people say, I felt like there was a spotlight like flooding my face, and when I opened my eyes there was no light. Of course, it's the inner light. People seeing, of course, the same colors, purples and blues and these kinds of colors, also the geometric shapes. And people talk about how it's pulling them inward. And I talk about how those geometric shapes and that kind of dizzy feeling, that pulling inward feeling, is actually trying to draw you back towards the consciousness that you are rather than forward into the world of form. It's so many different things. People have experiences of like they know their body is lying still, and yet they're like, I was sitting up, I was moving, my body was moving, but I know my body was still. Um, so it's a whole realm of these non-rational, non-linear experiences, and even incredible healings where people even have had like a spontaneous back adjustment. Even though they're lying on the floor, they're not moving at all, and all of a sudden their back just cracks. So there's incredible stuff that can happen in these non-linear, non-rational spaces.
And you've been doing this a bunch of different ways, in person, in groups, one-on-one, via Zoom, I take it.
Yeah.
Yes. Has Zoom worked out just fine for you in all these, the last 5, 6 years?
Absolutely. Energy doesn't is not limited by time or space. So it absolutely works. It just has to do whether you're in person or not, is if you're open or not.
Hmm. There's a expression that's pretty classic or cliche a little bit, maybe, and you've heard this before. I'll make sure that I get it right. I'll add an extra line for you. A mind that is fast is sick. A mind that is slow is sound. A mind that is still is divine. But I would argue that your work is like the unwritten fourth line, which is a heart that is open, is connecting to the inner source, and then having lots of fun, or at least expanding, ready to have fun. Sometimes there's a lot of letting go to get done. Can you talk to us a little bit more first about how big the universe is love the fabric of the universe? And then can you get back to the how you help people get to here to begin at least a mini healing journey, if not the broader journey? It depends.
Absolutely. So I think there are many words to describe the fabric of the universe. One of them could be love. And one of the ways that I describe it is it's not emotional love, it's the quality of unconditional presence. So just like a sky completely receives a tornado equal to a sunny rainbow filled day, that is how this presence is receiving. That is the fabric of this entire existence, that it is completely receiving without any comment, any judgment, without any aversion, any attraction, everything that is moving through it. There is nothing that is out, everything is included in it, and it is received exactly as it is. And that's what we would call unconditional love. And it's interesting because, it's almost like the air in which we are which we are living, right? Like the very backdrop within which our entire life is happening is this backdrop of unconditional presence. But the problem is that we're so stuck in our own little drama, we're convinced that, no, life is horrible, life is terrible, life is hard, not even realizing the space in which it is all happening is love itself. And so as I take people through these spaces, essentially what we're doing is we're helping them kind of get out of themselves, their own personality, the own veils that are keeping them from actually seeing everything is okay. We've always been held. There is nothing that can't be included in the quality of this life. That if I take it that way, it's just like stuff moving through that sky. I can bring it, I can allow it, I can let it go, knowing that the eternal presence that we are can never be shattered, can never be touched. In the teachings of yoga, they say, water cannot wet it, weapons cannot shatter it. It is eternal. So this presence that we are can never be shattered. And its essence is this unconditional receptivity.
Is it fair to say everyone's experiencing it? Believe it or not, they're already experiencing it fully, but they might be thinking something or not giving themselves daily credit for having connecting all the time. And I'll have to try to do it this way. Unconsciously, they're touching it all the time, but there's only a certain amount the ego, intellect, psyche can block or give you credit for or to try to control. It doesn't view walking across the room, putting on your jeans or flipping on a light switch as anything to worry about. So, but if you slowed down enough and did the Thich Nhat Hanh pieces every step thing and you paid attention, it would be a miracle on all the little muscle movements and all that stuff. So is it just a function of partly slowing down, paying attention more, and allowing maybe in the heart that would be some of the ingredients in this recipe?
Yeah, and you already touched on it in a way. It's like it's the mind that's blocking. So imagine the sun is trying to shine, but the mind and the one that we're identified to is sort of an umbrella that's blocking the light of the sun from shining through. And so any kind of experience that helps me release my judgments, my attractions, my aversions, anything that doesn't allow me to directly experience life as it is, but rather through how I've liked it or disliked it in the past, meaning a judgment. So when there's no judgment, that's an open heart. What does open heart mean? There's no judgment about it. I'm just receiving things as they are. The light switch as it is, my body as it is, my life as it is. And suddenly it becomes a beautiful life. But as soon as I believe that mind, that shadows that says, well, it should be like that, or I wish it was like that, suddenly it's like magic, that happiness is gone. So in these states, what we're doing, like Yoga Nidra, is we're removing that part of us that's always judging. It should be like this, it could be like that, and just kind of shining in the light of how it is. And then my heart, bringing in the heart, then my heart opens to how it is. Not how I want it to be, not how it was, but how it is. And we come to peace with how things are. It's like we're hooked up to the source.
I like it. Okay, so it's grow your awareness here, and there's like 9 other words: consciousness, unconditional love, no limits, timelessness. Grow your awareness here, not your thinking. But hold on, you're dealing with humans. I'm one of them. I mean, in an hour, I'll be back to thinking like it's the Indy 500. Talk to us just about when a person comes out of the first experience, don't they want to talk about it? Don't you have to sometimes help them sort out what was what, because there'll be a reaction, and then you help them settle back into the heart again? Can you talk to us about that part of this? There's some work involved.
Absolutely. And part of it is it's not that we want to get rid of the mind, but we want to create what we in yoga call the sattvic mind. So very often before we go into any spiritual state or practice, there are elements of our mind which are highly rajasic, highly activated, hyperactivated, that have us on not just go mode, but full on go mode. The acquisition of things to the degree that I would be willing to even hurt myself, like overwork, overdo, or to even hurt somebody else to get that thing. Then we have aspects of our mind that are highly tamasic, that are dull, that are lethargic, that keep us back in those old patterns. So what we want to do is we want to actually take these elements, and this is what yogic practices do, the meditation, any kind of meditation practice from any tradition, is going to balance out the excessively restless parts of my mind and just give me energy. And it's going to take the excessively inert or dull parts of my mind and just give me groundedness. So when I come out there, we still talk, we still think, we still interact, but from a balanced mind that is quiet enough to receive the light of the source through it. So imagine if my mind is too full of stuff, it's like I'm disconnected to that unconditional presence and I'm operating from the mind alone. But when the mind is quiet enough, I'm operating kind of simultaneously at two planes. So a clear mind level, which is then able to receive inner knowing, inner intuition, along with my intellect and logic and rationale. And that's kind of what we're going for.
Over time, how long have you been doing it for? Like, how would you want to describe how long you've been doing it for? Because it has shifted over time. Could you give us at least one parameter for how long you've been doing what you've been doing?
Yes. So I actually formally started teaching Yoga Nidra about 35 years ago. And why I love it is so many people will come in and they'll say, well, I can't meditate. I don't know how to do mindfulness. It's too hard for me. I spend so much time like just, focusing on my knees. I can't focus on the meditation. And so what I love about Yoga Nidra is you're lying down. So that's half the battle is done. And you're progressively being guided into states of quieting mind, where you're more and more accessing. So where you're guided to a state rather than where you trying to meditate, meditation is happening. So you're actually going down into the same brain waves as in sleep. That's why it's called Yoga Nidra, Nidra meaning sleep. And when you get to that sleep-like state, you're kind of able to hover between waking and sleeping, where meditation is happening. You're naturally observing stuff moving through rather than trying to willfully meditate.
I love it. Do you have moments? I'm going to go on a slight tangent. You're taking a nap. Do you have moments where even just your naps sometimes are those states, but you'll even get a familiar figure, an unconditional love figure, or at least color pattern or a symbol, just saying, hey, it's time to wake up. And it happens to always beat your alarm by 1 minute.
Totally, totally, absolutely. But that's what I mean. In these realms, like we can receive and we can see and we can sense, even from people who have passed over or, a guide, something who's always guiding us, but we're usually blocking it.
Yeah. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked to see there's gambling going on in the casino, the mind casino. If I say positivity or I say abundance, now I say positivity is abundance. I hope I got that right. Or abundance is positivity. Either way, can you pick one of the two and run with it in your patented Kamini Desai way of discussing this? Abundance or positivity or both. How do you like to address those topics?
Okay. So I'm going to go with positivity. And to me, the ultimate positivity, and of course, this is very yogic of me, is there's the positive that is, let's say, the opposite of negative. And then we have the ultimate positivity that can receive both the up and the down of life. And that's what the ultimate of what we're going for. So the positivity that we practice of, expect the best result, or, not engaging in our negative thinking patterns, to me that is a very powerful and needed middle step to get out of those lower frequencies. But ultimately, what that's going to take us to is a place where, regardless of how it happens to be that day, I know I'm okay. And that's the ultimate positivity. It's the light that's beyond the darkness and light.
Can I crack a Zen joke right now? Here's my response to that. Is that so? Okay.
Very good.
Now, two quotes from Chogyam Trungpa. Now I know that it's not Rinpoche, it's Rinpoche. I finally figured that out. It's all reading. I don't have anybody telling me anything verbally, so I'm always behind. But two quotes from 2014, even though he passed in 1988 or so. And two people who studied under him got to reunite with him, so that was cool. And one Indian journalist who had met him got to reunite. Here are two quotes. I'd love to get your reaction or run with it. Nothing too crazy. The way to experience nowness is to realize that this very moment, this very point in life is always the occasion. And then one more. This should be totally like, I think you should love this one. Taking one breath is like taking one step. Both bring peace and harmony.
Oh, beautiful. I love both of them. And that's the thing. The moment, and I know we're all saying it, be present, but there's a reason that we keep hammering on it, because it is the one and only place where we get to experience this joy, this positivity, this open heart, this connection, whatever you want to call it. It only happens here. And yet we have this habit of either looking to the past of what it was, I should have done it differently, maybe I should have done that. It's kind of second guessing our past or what we did, or jumping to the future. I'm going to do this. When I get there, then I'm going to relax. Then my life will begin. And so it's like we have this habit of constantly looking to the future for the time when I'm going to find that joy, not realizing that the only moment it can ever actually be experienced, like within this body, is now. Like you can't ever enjoy a meal in the future. You can think about when you're going to enjoy it, but the only place you're actually going to ever really enjoy it is in the here and now. Even love, the only place we ever get to experience a true open heart and connectedness is now. And yet most of us have this habit of saying, yeah, it'll come when. I'll get it when. I'll get it at the end of my giant to-do list. And so we end up kind of leapfrogging over the one place where the peace and the joy and the harmony actually is, in favor of someday. And every time when we arrive there, we still get to the next habit. This isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it.
There's a beautiful movie. It's almost Disney-esque. It's a gymnastics movie, Peaceful Warrior, based on the book Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Dan Millman. It has that exact messaging in it. I'll be happy when, basically, when I win the gold medal and prove to my dad I'm amazing. But the main character says that sort of towards the beginning, and then he's got his best buddy who sees his transformation, the main character's transformation. It was Dan's story, and says the exact same thing the main character said, back at the beginning of the film. It's got Nick Nolte, Amy Smart, Scott Meklowitz. Beautiful film. Let's talk about your own journey for 35 years. Not much, nothing prying here. Just look, if 35 years transpires, what have you had to let go of? What shifted? How did it grow or evolve in that time? And if you only want to address the last 5 years with all the consciousness, is it okay to say consciousness is flooding into the planet? I hope that's not too radical. How would you describe all that? That's a lot.
Well, I'll start with a personal. I think that the biggest thing I have been on a journey of letting go of is this idea of what spiritual is. And so I think that have a spiritualized concept of, well, spiritual is you never get angry, you're always happy, you never have human emotions, and you're and and more to realize that there is a human part of ourselves and then an unchanging transcendent part of ourselves. And so rather than spending my life trying to change the human part of me, like the human part of me has likes and dislikes, the human part of me gets angry sometimes, but recognizing that even when my human part of me is having her human emotions, there is an unchanging part of me that is allowing and is watching all of that, the two simultaneously. So I think earlier on in my spiritual journey, I was trying to be that concept, make my human part of me be like the transcendent part. So I should have no attachments. I should have no human emotions. I should always be happy. I should never judge anybody. And rather, could I let my human self, I mean, of course, I do the best with her that I can, and be as kind and as nice and do all those things that I can to calm her down, but to recognize that she's not always going to be calm, and she's not always going to be, the most kind, sweet person to my husband all the time, right? But even in the midst of that, rather than pushing that part of me down, to just, that's how it is. That's what happens to be passing through the sky of awareness at this moment. Rather than trying to wrestle with that personality, trying to make it different. Is this making sense?
Totally. And it's like, feel what you feel, do not judge.
Exactly. And that, in fact, the act of judging for me made it worse, because now I'm fighting with another part of me that's trying to be different than how I really am. And I'm actually moving further away from that loving, unconditional presence that we were talking about, rather than, okay, this is what happens to be moving through right now. Give it its space. It's going to change in 5 minutes, as long as I don't wrestle with it.
I'm going to go on another slight tangent just because, look, not everybody calls themselves a healer. Some people, it's like any other label or word or whatever. But you've been on this healing path at the very least, if not helping others heal this entire time. So this is a technical question. Seeing light, auras, what am I supposed to say? Kundalini, the chakras, there's so many, universal consciousness, love. Where are you on that? Was it really strong, like for a certain part of your life? Then you were like, nah, I'm shutting this down. And now you're technically using it, even walking into a store to determine which clerk you want to go grab to ask something in a polite way. How do you describe seeing auras, chakras, all that? If I could, again, this has got to be your way to describe it. I'm stumbling into this. So,
Sure.
okay.
So my dad was actually a Kundalini yoga master, so I've got a little background on this. And the idea is that our body is surrounded, like the aura, and infused by the divine energy, which is animating our body. When that energy leaves, we're dead. So this divine energy, for most people, is operating at pretty much just a biological maintenance level. So it's healing your body, it's maintaining your body, it's what's carrying out all the homeostatic processes. When that energy becomes awakened, and it can become awakened when we have these moments where we're totally present, when the source can kind of shine through that quiet mind, it can actually illuminate the energy within your body and kind of wake it up to a higher level than just biological processes. And that's what we call Kundalini energy. It's the energy of the divine that's been awakened to a higher level. And as you were touching on, that can then lead to all kinds of other extrasensory perceptions that we have access to. So for some people, it's seeing auras. For other people, it's like clairvoyance, clear seeing, the ability to heal or heal your own body. All of these are related to the awakening of energy. They don't have to happen, but the most important thing is that when this energy becomes awakened, it is actually naturally knows how to take you back to source. And that's the thing that I love the most, because it's going to attract to you things that need to be completed. You never have to find what's missing or what your lessons are. They will find you. You will have the inner guidance, the inner knowing that is given to you to deal with those situations. It's like your inner guidance system gets turned on at a higher level. And it accelerates the healing process as well. So all kinds of, not just physical stuff, but mental and emotional stuff that's unprocessed can actually get kicked out of your system. And literally you can clear lifetimes of stuff in a very short period of time. So I think the main thing is just knowing that it knows what it's doing. And when that energy becomes awakened, it's following it, following what it's telling you. It's almost like an inner voice that speaks to you from within, that's guiding the course of your life. And for a lot of people, it's so scary because when it first awakens, imagine that we were operating at an electricity level in the body of 500 volts, and all of a sudden it goes up to 1,000, and people think, oh my God, something's wrong. And they try to stop it. They try to shut it down. And actually, that's what gives most people, the adverse experiences in Kundalini is they get scared and they try to shut it down rather than channeling it and moving it through, transmuting it.
Okay, you get a choice on questions here. India, just sharing experiences or an amazing experience once. Now you look back, that sparkly-eyed stranger was maybe a universal figure of some sort. Or talk to us just about kindness, compassion, gentleness, how important the most basic stuff is. And you're still going to get the other question no matter which one you start with. So whichever
Okay.
one you want to
Yeah.
start with. Okay.
Well, the first one, it's kind of a combination of the two. My teacher and my father's teacher was Swami Kripalu. That's what Kripalu Center was named after, Swami Kripalu. And I met him when I was 10 years old. He himself was intending actually to commit suicide. And a stranger put his hand on his shoulder and said, "My son, I know what you're intending to do, and I will show you the true way out of your suffering." And he, this stranger, taught him all these ancient teachings of yoga, of energy, of Kundalini energy, and then one day he disappeared. And years later, there was a statue that had been buried for hundreds of years in a farmer's field to hide it from invaders. And when this statue was dug up, it was the face of his master. So this was essentially, it was a divine master who had embodied to teach him all of these things and then disappeared to basically keep the understanding of energy and Kundalini awakening alive. So I feel that this is very real. It's very close to our lineage, and it doesn't make sense to the rational mind. But that's why we talk about these things, and to make it normal, because otherwise our mind will immediately dismiss what we really did see and what we really did sense. But because it's in the non-rational, non-linear realm, your mind can easily cut it off and just make it as if it wasn't real.
And I'll do a lead in for the kindness, compassion, gentleness side. A loving figure once said this in like 10 years ago, and I think it's so not generic, it's beautiful, it's simple. It's this, but we'll do it as those diving boards that bounce, the springy diving board for you into the next topic. I'm losing my English. Sometimes the person next to you or a stranger just needs validation via love and compassion. A smile changes any moment. So too does laughter or a few kind words. Be compassion to all. Do it.
Beautiful. I love it. That is the most simple thing. To me, love, again, the love of just being unconditionally present to someone as they are is the most powerful, most healing thing that we could do for each other and actually for ourselves. Like, I'll tell people will say, well, I don't know what to do with somebody who has trauma or they're in so much pain. Just be with them. It's like the simplest thing that we are so afraid to do is just sit in the presence of someone as they are. And that's all it is. You don't have to have advice. You don't have to say anything. Just be with them. Just nod your head. Just receive them. To me, that is love. That is compassion. Without trying to immediately, well, you should do this or you should do that, or have you thought of this? Just be with them. And it's interesting because in yoga, what they say is, if we do not bring love to any teaching or anything that we offer, the person will not change, because the requirement is that the heart has to be open first in order for the rest to happen. The door has to be open in order for the teachings or the practice to actually have any effect.
I love it. We're going to wrap up in a second, but here's sort of the dance cue card thing. I'll do a couple quotes from whoever. It could be Gary Zukav, others to inspire you to a reminder for us all on something. And then with your permission, I'll blow some sage, put up one angel photo, Joy, Sri Shirdi Sai Baba or Ganesh, your choice. And we might feel energy from Arizona to Texas. We're not that far away, but it'll really be, we're going to blame angels, don't blame Canada. And it'll be love and above, none of the bill paying thinking side here. Hopefully the same for you. And we'll see where that goes, just to go beyond words a little. But here's your first quote from Gary Zukav. And I'd love to get your reaction and then inspiration for us all. Although I'm going to slip in an Albert Einstein quote just ahead of time. It's a little this serious one. You've heard it before. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. And then Gary Zukav said in Seed of the Soul, you change the way that you shape the light, which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness.
Beautiful. I love that. So what comes to me is imagine the mind and this whole, and our consciousness, the way that we think, these patterns that we were talking about, that's like a vase. And think of it that like thought forms reality. So, the essence consciousness is trying to flow through us, but it is constantly being shaped by the mind, the attitudes, the beliefs, the past, all that stuff that is then shaping the way that consciousness then comes through and expresses itself. So what I'm doing then is I'm shifting and let's think of it as optimizing. I'm optimizing the way that this vessel, this vehicle appears at the gross level and the subtle level so that it can be the most pure conduit. It can be it can take the shape and most purely reflect that consciousness possible.
Okay, you're getting a Winnie the Pooh and Piglet quote next, but this is a tiny tangent back to one of our prior questions. When did you, and I have to put it accidentally because I don't think we ever plan on seeing universal light, or you're in a situation, a dynamic, and part of the response was a lot of love coming in, but you accidentally had light everywhere or just on that one person, or you saw it on you. Can you share one of those quick moments and what were the details without naming anybody?
Well, the first one that came to mind was actually something that I once perceived as a traumatic event. And and then as I went back and I saw it from the healing perspective, I kind of saw it from the perspective of the higher self, angels guard, however you want to say it. And I saw that what to my human mind was like the worst thing was actually the greatest blessing that I could have ever received for the transcendent self. That the growth and the release that I got and the freedom from that experience just saved me so much more. And that has never left me. Just seeing the whole thing, it was like the whole thing was surrounded by light. The thing that I thought was the worst thing was actually my greatest blessing.
I love that. That was awesome. Okay, so Piglet asks Winnie the Pooh, how do you spell love? And Winnie the Pooh said, you don't spell it, you feel it.
Oh, I love
Reaction?
that. What can I say? It is. And the beautiful thing is the best way is like when I open my heart to somebody, I'm experiencing that love first. And when I close my heart to somebody, I experience that closing of the heart first. And so, where do I want to live more? I personally want to live more with an open heart. And the effect of living more with that open heart and feeling that within me is that it happens to shower on the people around me. So it's like a double benefit. It's not like, well, love everybody. No, you get to experience the benefit of your open heart first.
And again, one more tiny question. Lately, in the last year or so, have you had like pretend you're at a four-way stop sign, you know you're late for something, you didn't wave that person through when you normally do. Have you been more sensitive in any way the last year where you literally have a thought later, you're like, I really could have taken the time to wave that person through, and normally you do. But have you
Mhm.
felt anything extra in the last year for the tiniest things? There's nothing, you're not beating yourself up, but have you had any of those moments where you're extra sensitive about it, almost like way too sensitive?
There's definitely something going on. I mean,
Okay.
I couldn't really give you words to what that is. Maybe it's just heightened awareness to what we used to automatically do. Now we're more aware of, or that there are other tendencies or vibrations that can come in more easily if we're not more aware. I'm not quite sure what it is,
Yep.
uh, but I definitely see what you're pointing to.
I can give a little example here, and it takes 10 seconds, but I live in a community, so there's other neighbors. And a neighbor, we have an SUV where it can be really tinted in Texas. They waved high, and I was in a certain mindset, and they might have a certain background where it's okay for me to not wave high, but it doesn't matter what I think about the person or anything. And it doesn't mean I have to start a business with them tomorrow either. But it really stuck with me for a while. So when the next opportunity came, I made sure to say hi, and
Yeah.
it felt like it had gone full circle and resolved. So I just felt like there was a pattern in the air to pay attention to.
I do too. And I think what I'm feeling for me is I need to be consciously doing the opposite of what like to be making extra sure that I'm reaching out, like
Yes.
what you did.
Yeah.
And that it's really important. It's critically important.
If it's the type of person you're not going to have over for dinner, we're not telling you to have them over for dinner. I'm just saying you also don't have to do the black and white thing too much.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can
I'm
be
gonna
kind
light
to each
some.
other.
Oh, I'm gonna light some sage, and we've done this on the show a ton. There's only one bit of rule or structure with me, and that's set your intent. I'm frowning because I got to remember what this is after 13 years. It's set your intent with the universe, angels, if you want to say other figures, but if you don't mind including angels, ask them to get you out of your head into your heart and to catch some sage. I got to start lighting this. And I've got a red-tailed hawk feather, an IKEA tea light to kind of protect the rainbow shell, and some juniper ridge sage. I'm not sponsored, but I should be. And you can literally catch sage, but why settle for just a normal tiramisu when we can have a triple tiered tiramisu, no calories? Catch sage, flowers, and even ocean smell. If nobody minds me suggesting Hawaii. From Texas to Arizona, are you already getting your sage? But
I actually got, yes.
are you getting anything from India? I know I don't remember words very well, but the words for there's a flower in India. It could be jasmine. That's a fallback, but are you
Maybe
getting
Mogro.
anything extra? Okay. What was it again for the audience?
Mogro is like gardenia,
Perfect.
gardenia, jasmine. Yeah.
And you're catching that. And then last thing, just catch palm fronds, wave action. I'll blow. My microphone today is down below, so don't think I'm being weird. I'm going to blow Hawaii, but it could be Mumbai. It could be Seychelles. It could be Rehoboth Beach or Delray Beach. You can
Mm.
catch a little sea spritz on your nose. It's blame angels, blame everybody in a nice way. Okay, and I'm
Mm.
going to snub this out because I'm smoking out my office. Um, The next quick thing, and we're not rushing this, this is beautiful, but just joy Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, unless you had a request for Ganesh or somebody, you'll let us know. But I'll put up a photo of an angel. It's interdimensional. People can see her pulse. She's joy. She's got a high, peppy voice. You can put your hand out and feel her like she's a fireplace, but you can ask for a whoosh down your back. It's whatever you'll allow for. Usually, we're not very creative in what we're allowing and asking for. It's one dimensional out of the brain, but that's okay too. And get a private reminder about anything. But then if you don't mind asking her one thing for the audience and that you don't mind sharing out loud, what does she have for us all?
Let your heart be open and let your light be bright.
I like it. Thank you for doing that. And then Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, you get to pick one figure. It could be anybody. Mary, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. Yeah, I said them all right. Or other India figures or Native American or cultural.
Mm.
Nandamayama might be cool. Okay, here's Sri Shirdi Sai Baba.
Mm.
And if you don't mind privately getting something that you're like, whoa, you're not sharing that out loud. And then if you don't mind getting something for public consumption as a reminder for us all. I call him Mr. Miracles and he's tight with angels.
Yes. I'm getting keep your eyes one pointed, be steadfast
Like, yeah,
on where you're going. Don't
that.
get distracted. Just keep your eye there.
And then who would you like? Lakshmi, Anandamayama, the tiger. I use that one for the tiger.
Yeah,
Can we do the tiger?
sure.
Okay. Leopard is not a tiger. Okay. Leopard's got short, not metallic, but wiry hair. This one's shampooed and fluffy for people. Um, Action on everyone's team, deity like,
Wow.
and definitely feel it. He's pure action, totally. Or the tiger is pure action. I don't know if there's a gender.
Mm.
But anybody who wants, like, pretend you own a kitty that's 4 feet tall, you can put your hand out into the room, palm down, and feel the fur. We do that all the time. You don't have to do it on camera, but you can quietly just slide it off camera and feel. and say, got it if you got it. But one reminder from the tiger to us all.
Mm. Kind courage.
I love it. You're going to do the wrap up here in just a second, but we're going to do one last bit of, I'll call it hand up whooshing, only love and above. We're blaming Joy, Charlotte Min, the tiger, Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, Ananda Mayama. They're doing all this. Okay to put my hand up. You put your hand up in Arizona. Only love and above. And are you feeling, I got it right away. Are you feeling a vibration, love, warmth?
Tingling.
Good. I'll whoosh 3 times, low, medium, and high. It's them doing rainbow light your way. That's what I forgot to ask about was the rainbow light body. I don't really have a definition for that. Does that fit into when you were talking about light before, is that part of the
Yeah.
parlance? Okay. Here comes the first one, just a little whoosh. I'm going to blow down here as well. Just feel light wherever. Was that okay?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Tingles up my back.
Yay. The second one's medium, unless you want to go big. But the medium one, just same thing, but let it shift and it'll be, between you and the cheerleading squad in the sky. Here it goes. And that was okay too. The third is go big, go home. I suspect you're at home, so let's go big. And if there's anything project-wise, you got to do this, you got to do that. You need extra oomph. Ask for it here. And at home, if people want to close their eyes, I'll try to make a bigger blowing sound down here so you know what's happening. Catch Hawaii on your nose or somewhere else that you really like that's the beach. Here it comes. See light on your eyelids if your eyes are closed. And anybody can put their hands down and they can enjoy it just for another like 10 seconds. This is what she does for you when I'm going to make it not a joke, but just say you get conked out, lay flat, and have an amazing experience with the universe. And she's been doing this a super long time. So it's compassion, love, universal kindness coming in, and it knows how to sort everything out. Okay,
Yes.
you've done a million shows. You've also had to be a speaker on a ton of stages all over, including some of the biggest places in the world. What's a final reminder, kind of what Sai Baba was talking about walking a smoother path?
So the path may not be smooth, but how you walk it can be smooth.
Oh, I like that. Well, thank you very much for being on Angels, Positivity and Love. Kamini Desai, you're cool, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you so much, and back at you.